So day 6 of Packers training camp is officially in the books, and we have a lot of different things to talk about today. Should be exciting. We'll talk about Matthew Golden, some nice plays with Jordan Love. This seems to be a consistent theme. We'll talk about LaFleur getting mad at Rasheed Walker, making him run a lap. We'll talk about a few other things as well. If you guys are new to the channel, I put up Packers content most weekdays. I cover all the news, things like that, things that come out. So feel free to subscribe if you enjoy that type of content. And so today I want to start off here with the most exciting thing from practice. It happened closer to the end, but I'll start with it. Here we have from Andy Herman, who says, at Marquez Eversole, looks over to me and says, Matthew Golden is a big play away from being the player of the day. Seconds later, Golden wins on a deep corner out versus Hobbs for a 60-yard TD and shows off his speed after the catch. Huge play. And then on the same play here from Ryan Wood, Matthew Golden with a 60-yard touchdown from Jordan Love beat Nate Hobbs and Evan Williams to get wide open on a deep corner and outraced both to the end zone. The rookie is absolutely balling out today. So far, this feels like best case scenario for Matthew Golden. And yes, it's only been 6 days of training camp. The Packers have only been in full pads for a couple of days. But this is what you want to see from your first-round wide receiver. The Packers haven't drafted a first-round receiver in nearly 23 years. And so the first time you do, it's just fun to see someone coming in and dominating like it looks like Matthew Golden dominated at least today. And it just feels like a sign of things to come the regular season. And I think the Packers have other talented wide receivers, guys who get open, who need to catch the ball better. But to add this kind of talent, especially with this type of deep speed, to Jordan Love, who has an insane arm, can put the ball anywhere, I think this is going to be a great connection come the regular season. Then here we have, moving down, I need to skip a couple of those because that's from an earlier update here. We have from Matt Schneidman, who says, Savion Williams just went inside with a trainer, looked like he was shaking his head. So it's tough. I think the most unfortunate thing about camp is all the injuries that start happening. I guess it's to be expected just because when you have about 90 or so players playing football, there's going to be injuries. So he had a concussion, a few days ago that was reported by multiple reporters, and now he seems to be having an issue. I don't know if it's the same issue or something else. And then here from Ryan Wood, who says it's a groin injury for Packers RB Marshawn Lloyd, who also dealt with a groin injury last year. I touched on that earlier today on the channel. And then Dontavian Wicks is not practicing today because of a calf injury. And then Aaron Banks also remains out of practice with a back injury. So Wicks down, not great. So that's 2 receivers now, Wicks and Williams. Of course, you could throw in Christian Watson, who's still recovering from his ACL injury. And then Aaron Banks still out with a back injury. Moving on. Here from Weston Hodquist, Lucas Van Ness with another strong showing in one-on-ones, this time versus Jordan Morgan. Jacob Monk also had an impressive set against a hard-charging Kenny Clark. And I think for Lucas Van Ness, it's been let's just say Lucas Van Ness has not lived up to the early first-round draft pick expectations through his first 2 seasons. And today it looked like he had a really solid practice. We'll get into some more a little bit later. But if Van Ness can play at that caliber where he got drafted, this Packers defense is going to be very, very good. Then from Andy Herman, here are the starters today. Starters including Elton, Love, Jacobs, Dobbs, Reed, Golden, Kraft, Walker, Morgan, Jenkins, Ryan, Tom. So Elton Jenkins making his start at center. That is just a great sight to see. Because earlier on, I was wondering, is he going to skip out on camp because of this contract problem? The answer is no. He's not going to be doing that. And now he's out here back from his injury. And so that's great because that means the Packers will have a lot of time for Love and Jenkins to build up that chemistry. It's July 29th. The first game's September 7th. Is that the first Sunday? September 9th? I'll figure out the right day there. But basically, the point is, we're about a month away from the season, and they're going to start building that chemistry now, which is great news. And then you have starting off in 11 personnel there with 3 receivers, Dobbs, Reed, Golden. I sort of feel like that's going to be the starters come week 1 in this type of personnel grouping. I think that's a great combination there. And then defensively, Lucas Van Ness, Devontae Wyatt, Kenny Clark, Gary. It's been the same line most of the time. Same guys there. McDuffie and Cooper at linebacker. Looks like nickel here with Nixon, Bullard in the slot, Hobbs outside with Nixon. And then Isaiah Simmons is the third guy, or he has been the third linebacker out there lots of the time, and he is not in there. And so it looks like when they move to their base defense, Simmons has been going in with Quay Walker still not back. And then Williams and McKinney at safety. Then for Mike Spofford, Brenton Cox Jr. knows how to pop some pads. Great pass pro in the backfield by Brooks to allow Willis to escape and release at tough arm angle to find Hardman. Cox is a guy who was playing really, really solid football late last year. Really productive guy. And I think for me, can we just see him do it consistently come 2025? And he's making some nice plays there. Then from Andy Herman, who says Matthew Golden is getting better and more impactful by the day. Came open on a crosser, and Love found him for a nice pickup along the sideline. Edgerrin Cooper shooting through OLs and making TFLs. It's what he does. And so the fact that, as I already said earlier on with the first play with Golden, already in day 6, making a ton of plays, catching a lot of passes, I think that you can expect early on with rookies for it to take some time for there to be development. So if we had been to this point and let's say he hadn't been making any great plays and he had been a little shaky and inconsistent, I wouldn't say there's a reason to be concerned, just because what do you expect from young players coming in? It's going to take time to develop. So that just makes it that much more exciting that he's already playing at this level so early on. And of course, the chemistry between him and Jordan Love is just going to grow and grow and grow day after day after day. So very exciting stuff. Then from Andy Herman, Cooper shoots off the edge for a would-be sack, and Igbare with a great rush. Might have been a sack, but Willis fires, and Omar Brown jumps it for his second pick of camp. Edgerrin Cooper, we all know how good he can be. We saw what he did last season in a somewhat limited amount of snaps, and so I can only imagine what he's going to do with a much larger portion of the snaps there at linebacker. Weston Hodkwitz, Nazir Stackhouse came nearly flat free up middle for a sack. And I feel like we keep seeing Nazir Stackhouse's name come up here from all these Packers reporters over a lot of these training camp practices, which is great to see from an undrafted player who was a important piece on the Georgia defense. And then from Ryan Wood, Xavier McKinney just made a Xavier McKinney play. Cut across the deep middle field to step in front of a Jordan Love pass to Romeo Doubs. Love had to think McKinney wouldn't make that play from the backside. Not many safeties could. So Love has thrown some picks here at camp, and it's something that he has struggled with from time to time. He's gone through those periods where he has a streak of consistency where he doesn't put the ball in harm's way, and then he has those games where he just makes a lot of poor decisions. So here we have a poor decision by Jordan Love, and I guess the thing is, you just hope that once the season comes around, it doesn't happen a lot. Now, I know that even the great quarterbacks are going to throw picks. Even Aaron Rodgers threw interceptions, even though at a very, very low rate. And Love's probably not going to ever be the type of quarterback Aaron is when it comes to his TD interception ratio, because no one else in the NFL has ever been. So for him to do anything, for him to match Rodgers would be him being a Hall of Fame level quarterback. And I just don't think he's the same type of player as Rodgers when it comes to just really focusing on keeping the ball out of harm's way. I do think he's more built a little bit like Brett Favre just because of his willingness to take more risks, I would say. But again, training camp picks, is he just taking more risks because he can? Who knows? Then from Rob Domofsky, Lucas Van Ness with another strong showing in one-on-ones. Beat Jordan Morgan at LT twice. Once with an inside move and once around the edge. LVN 3-0 so far in the drill. So that's just great news for Van Ness, who's today it seems like he consistently made a lot of plays. Now, Jordan Morgan getting beat twice by Van Ness. I think for Morgan, it's hard to know what's going to happen here with him because so far in these, when you look at the starting offensive line, he has not been, one of those starters consistently. And I think that at this point, Party would have hoped that he would be one of the starters just because he is a first-round pick. And maybe he is that sixth guy where he can come fill in at guard, fill in at tackle, which obviously that's still an important position. But that's one where it's going to be interesting to watch to sort of see how he develops just because of how high he was selected in the draft. Then for Matt Schneidman, Tyron Hopper flying around during the first 11-on-11 live tackling period of camp, would have blown up a screen, but Willis' pass was inaccurate and fell incomplete. Hopper then helped stuff a run up the middle. Hopper barely played defensive snaps last year, and he's a guy where I've just been curious, are the Packers going to utilize him more and give him more opportunities? Because when you draft him, in round 3, you'd expect that at some point he'd get a lot more snaps. And maybe this is a year he starts to develop and grow. Just like a lot of guys, year 2, year 3, they really come through and start playing really good football, and so hopefully he'll get more opportunities. Then from Weston Hodquist, Stackhouse with another sack in team tackle period. So it looks like he may be vying for a roster spot as an undrafted player. You know what happens pretty consistently around the NFL? Undrafted players coming through and making 53-man rosters, and maybe Stackhouse is going to be able to do that. Then for Mike Spofford, 2 snaps after getting arm whipped by Lucas Van Ness on end around. Dobbs runs an in cut, Love puts it on him, and he's off for some yak, yards after catch. Big hollers from the offensive coaches after that one. So first off, Lucas Van Ness apparently knocked him down to the ground on an end around. Van Ness's name keeps popping up today. And then Love and Romeo Dobbs connecting. And I really love Romeo Dobbs. I think he's a solid receiver, and I hope that he's able to stay around in Green Bay after this year because it is the final year of his rookie deal. And then from Andy Herman, Love and Dobbs are cooking on this drive. Beautiful slant route. And even though Love and Golden have been connecting a lot, of course, Love and Dobbs have more chemistry. Same with him and Reed, guys who have been here a while. So it's not surprising that they're having some nice plays there. And then Matt Schneidman. Matt LaFleur is furious at Rasheed Walker, ordered him to take a lap, and threw an expletive in there. Walker did something to Enagbare and got booted. Didn't see what exactly. Kraft, Ryan, Tom, Jacobs, Morgan, and Jenkins ran the lap with Walker in support. So I'm curious to see what Rasheed Walker did. Not quite sure. I was trying to check right now to see if any other reporters had added something. And actually right now we do have an update here. Matt Schneidman says a few minutes ago on X, some clarity on this, despite Rasheed Walker saying he doesn't remember what happened. Walker and Enagbare engaged after the play. Enagbare let go. Walker held on and pulled him to the ground, and both hit the deck. So maybe it looks like some after-the-play activity that Matt LaFleur was not exactly happy about and making Rasheed Walker run a lap. So that's interesting there. But I feel like you like to see guys playing physical, tough football. I think there are positives there. And Brian Gutekunst did say earlier today when he was asked about Nate Hobbs just being aggressive, Gutekunst was saying that you'd rather have to tone someone down than have to get them to turn up their intensity. And so I feel like that in the NFL, it's like you want your guys to be tough and physical. You just wanted to stop at the whistle because you don't want unnecessary penalties. And so that's probably why LaFleur was upset, because it seems as if this was after the play. And then from Aaron Nagler here, who says, Tyron Hopper has been everywhere the few practices I've been at so far. Really flying around. Certainly seems like he's settled into the pro game and is just reacting and making plays. Positive start to his second season. So there we have Hopper playing really good football. And so I feel pretty confident about this Packers linebacker room. Once Quay is back, he was improving late last season before going down with an injury. Isaiah Simmons has been getting some buzz at camp, as well as Edgerrin Cooper, McDuffie. So, McDuffie at least signed this offseason. So I like the depth they have here, especially if Hopper can come through in a big way. And then to end it here, Matt Schneidman says, Matt LaFleur is absolutely laying into the team after practice. Can only hear bits and pieces from where we're standing, but he's not happy. So I'm curious what he's not happy about. Maybe it has to do with like what happened with Rasheed Walker. Not quite sure there. Hopefully we get some more insights into that a little bit later today. But that's going to be it for this update video. If you want more Packers content, feel free to subscribe, turn on the notifications. You can also follow me on Twitter at LukeBeller3. But that's all for today, at least up to this point. And I'll see you guys next time.